From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
I'm the reason. I'm the reason. Rap about they say.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, keep it positive, it says in the comment section. So we try. We made it like 3 minutes, everybody, but it's an hour-long show. We do a deep dive with Conor O'Neill from Deacons Illustrated on the Wake Forest team and the one single thing Florida State University cannot afford to do if they find themselves having to hire a new head coach. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com works faster and longer. Not the website, the actual stuff. Vitamin Energy. It's in a bottle, everybody. It's not even 2 ounces. You can take it anywhere you got to go. It'll give you 7 hours of energy and body-nourishing vitamins that will accelerate your metabolism, improve your focus, improve your mood. Give it a shot. And while supplies last, buy one, get one free. warchantbogo, the promo code, warchantbogo. We still are sitting on a box, Corey, of those sweet Nike Warchant Vitamin Energy branded polos, and we are approaching the holiday season. We'll need to figure out a way to give those out to folks that make bulk purchases of the juice. Sip the juice. VitaminEnergy.com, warchantbogo, the promo code. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Hit the thumbs up, rate, review, leave a comment that's positive. We had somebody in the comments the other day, Claude, in the comments, Corey. Why can't we stay more positive? The players need our support.
Yeah.
We'll try today, maybe? I don't know. What do you feel like trying? I don't know if I feel like trying to be positive today. I'm in a bad mood. I
didn't take my mood either. I need to do that now. We made it a little bit positive. I wrote a story that's on the website you guys can read about the football facility, and that is a huge positive
awesome.
for this program.
For sure.
It's really, really. I haven't been inside it. It looks incredible. And from the sound of it, it is incredible. Surtain, Leonard, KJ Kirkland, Norvell, they couldn't say enough great things about it. So no matter who is running the program next season or the years to come, that is a nice perk that they get for their job. That is an easy selling point. That thing looks awesome. The stadium looks great. It sounded great when people were excited when they were beating Alabama. We'll see what it sounds like Saturday night. Hopefully people are excited and you're cheering a bunch of touchdowns. I don't know how anybody would expect anyone covering or watching Florida State football to remain positive in this current situation, because we have not seen a win over a real team, legitimately over a real team, in 2 months.
Yikes.
That's August 30th.
That's not uplifting.
It's not. It was August 30th. They beat Alabama. We were plenty positive then, and then they beat 2 high school teams and lost the rest. So,
brother,
give us a reason to be positive, and we'll be positive.
Brother, I was going back and trying to find weekly winners of generating discussion sparked by Cummins, and I'm going back and looking at the shows, and it's like a week ago, it's like, will he survive? The week before, it's when will the losing stop? But like 3 weeks prior to that, it was, is this FSU team special? And I don't know if they are the right.
Does it remind you of the 13 team at all?
Yeah, right.
You're getting those questions too. Yeah,
we entertain.
In
those.
hindsight, no, it doesn't. Not really at all.
So I was listening to Seminole Headlines, the other strong property that you commandeer and lead into the greatness. And shout out, man, like a lot of shout outs to Wake Up Warchant during the show. Appreciate that from you and Ira. Ira Schofel, everybody. He covers the team for a living, but he still tunes in and listens to Corey and I yap on and on.
He does.
If
Can
Ira
you imagine?
does it, you should, everybody. Tell a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Ira loves this beat. He loves his job. He loves us. He loves listening to us. He never, ever texts me that I said something incredibly stupid in his opinion. It's always upbeat and positive, his critiques of the show.
There we go. But I think there was a moment in the show, and then I had to kind of disconnect and get some stuff done around my house. But I think there was, how do I say this without, like, I don't want to put any undue stress or spotlight on us. But there's a certain contingent of people that are like, this is almost like a manufactured hot seat. Like, we haven't heard, there aren't any telltale signs that his job is in jeopardy for next. It is in jeopardy, but like that he's for sure gone. So, like, do we need to be a little bit more cautious in the way that we do talk about the team? Because I mean, there's a greater than 0% chance that we're still talking to him in February or something. And wouldn't this all be awkward? Which I don't really think it would be, but your thoughts on that? I don't know. What did you guys say on the show? Because I wasn't able to really kind of tune my ear into what you guys were talking about.
What was the premise?
I think it was during the first segment where maybe it was coming into the headliner questions in the second segment, but it was basically just, there is a world where, if they rip off, which is as improbable as it sounds, everybody, which I get it. Like, I'm with you. I am with you. To think that this team can win 5 straight games, sorry, Claude, is very, very hard to believe. But if they do, maybe there's enough. Maybe it's a 3-2 vote in the 5 mega millionaires that we have that help support this football program. They're like, keep them, thumbs up. And then where do we go?
Exactly. Look, man, that is a bridge that we'll see if it's even standing, if it's upright, when we get there. If they get there. Because it seems implausible now because you did just lose to Stanford and you have lost 4 in a row. But you are still the same roster that beat Alabama. So there is a chance, not a great one, clearly not a great one. There is a chance that they rip off and have a really good finish to the season. What we saw in Palo Alto gives you no confidence at all. But maybe a reboot, a reset, a bye week, moving into that facility, whatever it takes, might turn this thing around. Getting healthy, it might be as simple as that, could make this thing look good again. And if it's a 7-5 or 8-4 football team, I don't think it's outlandish to think that Mike Norvell keeps his job. I know people don't want to hear that. A lot of people anyway. I'm sure some of you are fans of his and hope he does keep his job. You guys aren't nearly as vocal. But there is that premise that's not, again, they're a 10-point favorite. Somehow that number went up, Aslan.
It's above 9.5
I thought it would
now?
plummet. It's 9.5.
Oh,
Yesterday when we talked, it was 7.5. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, yes, now Florida State is almost a 10-point favorite over 5-2 Wake Forest. They just beat SMU. Okay, I guess. It beat SMU even though they turned the ball over 5 times. Just odd. An odd line there. It's really bizarre. But you beat Wake. You beat Virginia Tech. You somehow at least win 2 of the last 3 road games, which this team hasn't won on the road in a long, long time. So I don't know. The last road win they had was in the Swamp 2 years ago. But if that happens, because here's the thing. If you would have asked anyone at any point in the offseason, would Mike Norvell be fired if he had 4 or 5 losses? 4 losses, absolutely no way.
Yeah.
5 losses, as I said repeatedly, 5 losses means you went 5-5 on the season. Not great. Still a step up. The problem is it's been 4 in a row. He didn't space any of them out. So right now it looks completely dire and impossible that they would win a game again with him. But sometimes it only takes one game. It only takes one moment, one winning play, and then the next game you look really good. I don't know how it works. Like, you think about the 2021 season. They barely beat Syracuse, right? It took a couple Jordan Travis scrambles, one that it looked like he was going out of bounds, a hold that wasn't called, much to Tony White's chagrin, because he was the DC for Syracuse then, that allowed for you to kick that game-winning field goal over a not good Syracuse team. But you did it. You won. And then what did you do after that? You went on the road and beat a top 10 North Carolina team or top 15 North Carolina team out of nowhere. Sometimes it just takes winning that one game again to just reset, refocus, and feel good about yourself, and then you can take off. That is a possibility, not a probability. So if that happens, then there is a chance he'll be the head coach. I guess the premise I'm working with is if you lose to Stanford, you're going to lose a lot more games. There's 5 games left. If you can lose to Stanford, that Stanford team, I expect you to lose 3 or 4 more times out of your 5 games left. You might lose all 5. And if that's the case, obviously, he's not coming back. If you finish with a losing record, if you finish 4-8, come on, man. And 2 of those wins were against East Texas, what the flip, and Kent State, you're not coming back. So that's the premise I'm working with. Not that 4 losses is fireable. 4 losses of 8 losses, it's what's absolutely fireable, and you can't do this again.
How do they rally, though, Corey? I mean, KJ Kirkland's eyes, kind of lit up when you asked about, how much does a week make a difference in the way that you feel? And he's like, eyes kind of lit up like, man, you don't even know, brother. Patrick Surtain, you asked him about being part of teams that don't have a lot of success when he was with the Dolphins and such, and Chiefs before, obviously, they were the Chiefs. And he talked about, let's just have to have, like, self-pride, like, respect and pride for the name on the back of your jersey, your name. It's your family that needs help, which, I think there is probably as much of a parallel in the NFL as there is NCAA football right now. You might not have a direct family. You might not have a wife and kids, but there's people around all these guys that are, looking for some, residual help, if you will. So it feels like, I'm probably going to ask Mike this later today, Corey, but we went from edge, like we're going to be the edge team. We need an edge. We need an edge. We need an edge. To, let's just go out to Stanford and let's just have fun and cut it loose. Let's just have fun and cut it loose. And then on Monday, it was like, we need to just go do our job. So it's like this roller coaster of things where I wonder where do they find the moment to build up self-confidence, have, pride in who they are, and then put it on display, because like don't you do that after the Miami game? Don't you do that after the way you lost to Pitt? So I just wonder, like, where is the hope, you would think, from competitors, you being a prime athlete, apex athlete, that these guys actually shook it off 2 weeks removed?
Yeah, man, I don't even know. Like, this is the problem. This is what we talked about a good deal on headlines. It's like, these interviews are impossible. What's he going to – I don't even know what that question was. You were talking about asking him. How's he going to answer it? And when he does answer it, who cares what he says or believes him? And that's not a shot at Norvell. It's just like nobody cares about words anymore, man. When you lose 4 in a row, when you lose 9 ACC games in a row, nobody cares about the words you're telling us about going to work, doing your job, playing focused, executing, blah, 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 blah. It's Saturday night at 7:30. That's how you speak to everyone. And that's not so. Norvell wants to win. Norvell cares. We all get that. He really does care. And I don't say that dismissively. That does mean something to me that he cares so much. But we know he cares. That team didn't look like they cared at all against Stanford until the second half. And then by that point, then Tommy got hurt, and even then it wasn't looking great. Blah, we get it. But it's like, what is he going to say? What is he going to say that's going to assuage us of how we feel and make us feel calm or better? Nothing he can say. And really, even if they win on Saturday night, unless they win 50-9,
what if they cover, Corey? Great teams cover.
Well, yeah, if they beat 27-17 or something, that would be incredible. If they win big, then maybe he gets a few more people back on the bandwagon. But man, they are all off the bandwagon and they are down the road. They have let the bandwagon keep going. They're nowhere close to getting close enough to jump back on it. And one win over Wake ain't going to do anything. A win at Clemson, maybe, but why would we think this team will do that? They couldn't win at Stanford. Why would we think they could handle – they couldn't win at Virginia. Why do we think they could handle that? So until they do that, everything else is just words. And look, it's our job. We go there. They have a press conference. It's just like Ira said on Jeff's show the other day, it's like we're all kind of playing our role. Like we all ask about response, and we all ask about how's the team handling the outside noise, or who are the leaders that are – who cares who the leaders are? They're not leading at all. They've led them to a 4-game losing streak, so I don't care who's stepping up. And I really don't care what the head coach says in a press conference, because we've all heard it now for 6 years. He's got, if he wants to be the head coach at Florida State in 2026, if that's even a possibility, in fact, if he wants to be the head coach in Death Valley in 2 weeks or a week and a half, something's got to happen on Saturday night. That's the only words, it's the only statement that matters. And I think I definitely think there's a possibility he's not the coach in Death Valley if things go poorly on Saturday. Yeah. But then I also thought there was no way he'd survive the Stanford loss, and he at least got to move into the new building. So, we'll ask, he'll answer, he'll try to say the right thing, but he's saying a lot of things that don't mean anything anymore because of the product on the field. And again, The first 3 losses are at least somewhat excusable and salvageable. They are. And you were a couple of plays away in a couple of those games for winning them. We get it. Bad luck, bad coaching, bad eyes, whatever you want to say. You were really close. The bad bounce in the Pitt game, bad injury luck. The Stanford game, absolutely no excuse. None. And when you're a head coach that can lose to Stanford, that Stanford team, it's hard to imagine you're going to somehow get this thing turned around with this roster and be able to go on a run.
I'm not the economist of the group, but when Surtain talks about like you have to, you got family to support and things like that. So
now he was talking about when he was on the NFL, right? When I asked him about what drives you when you know you can't make the playoffs on an NFL team, because he was with some pretty bad Dolphins teams, or at least mediocre. What drives you to keep coming to practice and working, knowing you can't go to the playoffs? Was the context of the question? Right.
I mean, the players, to your point, like parallel has been created. Like they are in the same boat, but these players have all been paid. I mean, everything was front loaded because of the way the house settlement came in. So pretty much all your acquisitions and your probably higher paid players have received all their money. And then I don't know how many of them really, I know they got put on tape to either go to the NFL draft or then end up going back into the portal. I mean, I wonder how much of that is going to be part of, listen, we hit that point last year, right? Where Papuchis, we asked him about, how do you keep guys like Patrick Payton locked in after such a disappointing season? He's like, well, as I tell them, they got to put it on tape. They got to put it on tape. And so I do wonder, like, the economics of some of these guys that maybe came here on a multiple-year deal, whether it's straight out of high school. But there's, if they can leave, even if they've signed a multiple-year contract, but then wherever they go has to turn around and pay the money for them to be able to leave their exit fee. I wonder how much of just the economics of revenue share, these guys have their money. So are they fat and happy, or is it, man? I mean, like the offensive line is all going pro in either football or something else next year. So I think they're going to obviously finish out the string strong. But then there's a lot of other people where it's like, I wonder, do I shut it down? Do I not shut it down, but maybe I don't risk certain things because I need to be able to play somewhere else next year. That's another thing that's kind of going through my head about how are they going to manage at this point in the season to like flip the switch and find back all that energy and desire they had against Alabama.
I mean, you just hope, like, even if you can't make it to the playoffs, like, you have some pride. You're an athlete. You're a competitor. Like, you don't want to go out and lose. And don't, like, you've been doing this your whole life. Let's take, like, a Randy Pittman, for example, who has busted his butt to try to get healthy for this team. And has made some big-time plays for this team. And has not really been fully healthy all season, right? He was injured he was injured before the Alabama game. Yep. He has not been right all season, but he still tries to gut it out and play as much as he can. Like, imagine that guy being 21 years old. He's been playing football probably since he was 5. This was his dream to play college football and to be a good college football player. And he's a competitor. And it's such a hard job being a football player. And you go through all that off-season nonsense. And I call it nonsense because I would never do tour of duty and all that. I mean, that stuff it looks awful. You do all that, and you practice football, whatever it is, 100 days, and you get to play 12 games. Wouldn't you think? And you do it for 360 days a year. You get ready for these 12 days. And then you just decide to shut it down and not play? Like, what are you doing it for then? Don't you love the sport? This is the part you love. I could get, like, maybe taking it easy on period 11 on a Tuesday practice. But getting out there on Saturday is why you're here. So I really do think, like, I
but
hope.
The thing is, they haven't quit playing, though.
I know.
That's almost as equally uplifting as that is. It's almost just as problematic because they are trying and they're still losing, right? You know?
Right. Yeah. It's I think that comes down to the argument I kept making. It wasn't even an argument because it's not like they disagreed with me. But to Jeff and Ira, when we were talking about potential coaching candidates, I'm like, I just want somebody that'll bring in players. Because I think overall there's just not a ton of talent on this football team. It's good enough to beat a lot of teams, as we saw August 30th. It's also bad enough to lose to everyone, which is kind of the reality of most college football teams in the middle, which is where Florida State is, right? In the middle. I think Georgia Tech almost lost to Wake Forest. Georgia Tech almost lost to Colorado.
Almost lost to Clemson.
Yeah, but the Colorado game, now that was the beginning of the year, but they only beat Colorado, I think, by 7 points. Colorado just got embarrassed on national TV by Utah. Had minus 18 yards at the half, and Utah had 400 with a backup quarterback. Georgia Tech almost lost to that team. So all these teams in the middle, that if you're not Ohio State, Georgia, or two other teams, you can lose to all of them. The problem when you don't have as much talent is the margin for error is so small, you can lose all of them like Florida State has. You don't have that special talent that can overcome a bad start or a bad whistle or bad turnover luck and still win the game, or at least stop a losing streak at 1. But yeah, so that yes, I don't think they've just given up at all. I do think they play as hard as they can for the most part. I didn't think Pitt was great. I also don't think they were coached well. I don't know why they would be 40 yards back in a zone. That makes no sense when you have a true freshman quarterback that's trying to I just don't know why you'd be playing so far back. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think this team does play hard. I just don't think it's very talented. It's got some talented pieces, but I think the best players, other than Deuce, are the youngest players. And that's not a great recipe for success, but it should be better than this.
Yeah, man, they have a good enough offensive line. They have,
yes,
at worst, an average quarterback.
Yes.
They've got an above-average wide receiver in Deuce Robinson.
Well, I will say this when it comes to the quarterback play. If he's not a runner, if that part of his game is taken away, he's a below-average quarterback. When his running ability is on full display and usable, he is I think a good college quarterback. But the kid that played at Stanford, the kid that played the second half against Pitt, that's not a good college quarterback. But I think it's in there, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, they don't have somebody that can stay. I mean, I know Elijah Herring is a mismatch on Desmond Reed, but the defense is a harder sell. And I know the offense really has only had one bad game. But man, it was a really bad time to play a bad game. When we talk about complimentary football, that's a game where you need to figure out a way to maybe grind it out and win, 20-17, give them one extra score. So that's the thing that I don't push back too hard on the assertion that they don't have enough talent. But, I mean, again, they took it to Alabama for 60 whole minutes and hung in the fight against Virginia on the road. And, the Miami game was ugly. And then I think everything after the Virginia game has been ugly.
Oh, 100%. And I'm not trying to excuse it and say, well, give Mike Norvell a pass. His team's not that talented. They certainly have as much talent or more talent than Virginia and Pitt and Stanford, right? We all agree with that. So there's no excuse to lose all three of those games. My point is, especially the Stanford game, but even Virginia and Pitt, you shouldn't lose both of them. It's understandable to lose one of them, just like it's understandable that Miami lost to Louisville. Miami then turning around and losing to Stanford would have been a fireable offense. But you know what? They didn't, because they got Malachi Toney, and they went and spent a lot of money on a quarterback, and they've got two edge rushers that are beasts, and you don't. And so that's, there are differences there. That offensive line is better than yours. They've got probably at least 4 or 5 early round NFL picks on that team. So even when they start slow against Stanford and there's nobody there because it's a Miami game at home, and they're down 7-0 with 2 minutes left, they end up scoring 45 in a row because they have that much more talent than Stanford. Florida State doesn't have that kind of talent, but it has enough talent to beat Stanford comfortably. And it was just an awful poor showing. And I don't even know what the point of that was, other than Mike Norvell doesn't get a pass for that. It's his fault. What's a bummer is you did kind of like this freshman class. You do like these young guys. I do think there's some stuff here to build upon. I think the 3 best defensive linemen, not named Darrell Jackson, are all true freshmen. That's a good thing and a bad thing, right? But it's for the future, it's good. But will they be here? Who's going to be coaching them?
Dude, the Sears literally, Mandrell is tied for the lead in pressures with James Williams, and Darrell's second with 12.
Yeah, man, and these were 3-star/4-star recruits that are true freshmen. That's how poorly you recruited on the line of scrimmage, really both lines of scrimmage, that other than Darrell Jackson, again, who was a transfer, but he's been here for a minute, that's Daniel Lyons has had some nice moments, I guess, but it's man, this is not good enough. The line of scrimmage is not good enough. And that's all on Norvell. You can't go and exert your will on a team like Stanford. Just physically move them out of the way because you don't have the guys to do it. You have some talented pieces out wide. You have a Danzy and a Cromall and a Castellanos when he's healthy, and Deuce is a matchup nightmare. But overall, it's not great talent. And it's not great talent defensively at all. You've got a couple guys that might be special. Rawls, who didn't play. I like Earl Little a lot. That about covers it. Oh, and the guys I talked about, the Desir twins, Kevin Wynn, who's been not healthy for most of the season. So he does have a nice young core, but it might all get imploded. It's not a good enough core that you would risk bringing him back if it still continues to go sideways or go for. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, this isn't a good enough young group, young nucleus, that you'd be like, hey, we're going to withstand another bad season because we love the Desir twins and we don't want them to leave. No. There's nobody on the current roster, no, not even 5 people on the current roster, that you'd be like, you'd want to keep them so bad that you would keep Norvell. It's just an impossible thing to think at this point, unfortunately. But as I said, ask me again after Thanksgiving if they've ripped off 5 in a row, 3 wins on the road, 2 over rivals, and they finished, 4-4 in the ACC? After going 1-7 last year, finished with 8 wins when last year they had 2. Yeah, man, it would be. I don't think you're firing them, but I also have no. I have no misconceptions that they're going to sniff 8 wins until they prove me wrong, which they will starting this week, Aslan, with a big 41-14 win over Wake Forest. It's not going to be that close. It's not going to be that close. It's going to feel like 60-0. It's going to feel like the Kent State game.
Before that big dub, won't you come on out to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Friday for a meet and greet? And before then, Thursday night for bingo. 4 rounds, $250 cash up for grabs in each single round. Ice cold drinks, daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Weekday happy hours from 4 to 7 p.m. and then happy hour all day Sunday. Again, yes, even during the NFL, which how does that even work? I mean, just giving it away pretty much, Bill. That's how he's rolling. And I was listening to headlines, so I heard the commercial about downstairs 7th Hill Tap Room. So if you're a MMA connoisseur, that's mixed martial arts, if you like watching the UFC and such, whenever those are on, those pay-per-views, man, just head over to the 7th Hill Tap Room. It's right below the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. But Friday, the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill is where your boy Corey Clark will be, everybody. Come check him out. Shake his hand. And his son's hand, maybe. Questionable. What's his status? Are you going to do an injury report 48 hours before? So should I ask you tomorrow during the live show for a status?
Probably tomorrow during the live show. I'll have a better update on where Brady's status will stand for that. He is going to the Garnet and Gold All-Star baseball game with his mom at 6:30 on Friday night. Which, Link, you got to schedule that on Halloween. Come on, man. But anyway, so he'll be there for that. So even if he's at Corner Pocket, it won't be for long. But he might be there. Obviously, he's not as comfortable with adulation as I am. So, you don't have to go seek out Brady Clark. That's kind of a weird thing for me to even talk. In fact, let's just go ahead and say he won't be there. And if he's there, it'll be a nice surprise.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Why would you wander around a warehouse store looking for paint when you could just swing by your neighborhood Ace? In addition to Ace's award-winning service, we have top-rated paint brands. Plus, our color matching technology allows us to match any color. So stop wandering and start painting. Head to your neighborhood Ace today.
In Crawfordville, your home convenience store is Ace Home Center and NAPA Auto Parts, located at 2709 Crawfordville Highway. Welcome back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, warchantbogo, your promo code. We are joined now by publisher of Deacons Illustrated, Conor O'Neill. Conor, thanks for taking time out of a busy schedule, I'm sure. Things must feel really good up at Wake Forest coming off that win against SMU, and I want to kind of start off right there. I mean, I was able to watch a good bit of the replay on that. I wanted to watch the NC State game, too, kind of to give me a barometer, a baseline of where they were and where they are now. This looks like a team, a program that's trajectory is on the up. What have you seen from Wake Forest that's made them better, it seems like, week after week after week?
Yeah. As corny as it sounds, it's just kind of a belief in them being an ascending football program and believing in a first-year staff with guys that, I mean, gosh, it's not only guys that are new to Wake Forest, it's a lot of guys that are new to the East Coast even. I mean, these are Pacific Northwest and Midwest guys that came in. And I will plead ignorant. I did not always see it. Like I definitely, after the NC State game, thought that this program would be lucky to be a 6-win team. And I mean, they still got to get that one out there, but they've just kept improving. Even the offense, you might not be able to see much improvement when they put up 13 points and have 5 turnovers, but they're still able to win a game. They're still able to come up with a 25-yard pass to set up a game-winning field goal. They're still able to keep kind of plugging away and chugging away and figure out a way to move the ball against an SMU run defense that has stopped pretty much everybody they've played. It's a little bit of a unique storyline because Wake was, I think they were picked 16th in the ACC poll. Not much expected of this team at all. And like you said, they've kind of just kept improving and they've been able to stay ahead of the curve, and improvement has led to wins.
Yeah, I was able to listen to the Monday press conference that Coach Jake Dickert had, and he showed great respect for the Florida State team. But I do wonder. I mean, that's the only thing in my mind that I can think of that favors Florida State, other than the fact that they're at home, because it's like a 9.5-point spread as we sit here and talk right now, Connor, which is just mind-boggling. But I just do wonder if there was no expectations really for the Wake Forest team going into the season. But once you start winning some of these games, you knock off the reigning regular season ACC champs and SMU, they're alive. I mean, they need some help, but like Wake Forest is alive and well in the ACC hunt. I mean, do you think this is a team that has like the leadership, the maturity, obviously a first-year staff that can keep everybody, level headed through what could be maybe like a tough venue, and then obviously the pressure of being able to have some really big goals ahead of you?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the questions that still needs to be answered. And we're going to find out not only this week with Florida State, but they go to Virginia after this. And so they can really play the role of a spoiler and kind of really throw themselves into the mix with 2 road wins here. The only 2 road trips they've made so far, I mean, they went to Virginia Tech a week or 2 after Brent Pry was fired. And Virginia Tech, I felt like kind of poured it out to win in Raleigh the week before. So they came home and I think had a little bit of an emotional downward I don't know if it's spiral.
A little let down.
Yeah. And then they went to Oregon State, and they won at Oregon State, which it's always a good win when you go across the country and win. They fired their coach less than 24 hours after the end of that game. So it's not exactly it is a little bit similar with what you guys are dealing with down there with Florida State and Mike Norvell conversations, but it's not exactly the same thing. It's still a talented roster. It's still, I would put the overall talent level, remove the results and everything. I would put at Florida State far ahead of where Virginia Tech and Oregon State are this year. So we're going to find out about the maturity level. That is one thing that Wake does have going well for it. I do in all my previews, I do a, young player to be on the lookout for. And I've pretty much stopped doing them because Wake just has so many guys contributing that are in their 3rd, 4th, 5th seasons of college football. It's kind of, I was explaining this to my wife the other day. It kind of plays out in reverse. Like you have 1st-year staffs that come in and they have to revamp everything through the portal. They wind up with really old teams. Like they wind up keeping some guys that have been around. Wake's defense is the best example of that. They have a bunch of guys that have been through the 4 and 8s of the last 2 years. But they've brought in a ton of guys, especially on the defense, on both sides of the ball. They just brought in so many guys that are older. It's an older football team. And then the flip side of that is with my other responsibilities covering Duke. Duke was an older team last year when Manny Diaz was in his 1st year. And then you look at them in their 2nd year, they're actually really young. Like their 2 deep has a ton of 1st and 2nd year guys that they're relying on in the rotation. And that's where you have some slippage when you have these 2nd year coaches, because all of a sudden they don't have the 18 grad transfers that they brought in to help them out immediately and fill out the roster and fill those depth roles. They're they're relying on guys that were playing high school football 10 months ago. So
let's start offensively. Again, like I listened to the press conference on Monday. I didn't really kind of get any kind of clarification. Maybe you know how to interpret your coach better than I'm able to interpret your coach. But like, what's going on at quarterback right now? Obviously Robbie Ashford was kind of brought in to be that guy. But Deshaun Purdy has been kind of thrust into duty sometimes. I was watching the condensed replay, which I'm sure you've seen a few of them sometimes, Connor. And for whatever reason, the ACC doesn't like providing any context in between some of these plays. So you would just see like Ashford in the middle of one drive, and then all of a sudden Purdy comes back in. I know Ashford's dealing with the thumb. Is it Dickert said something along the lines of like they need him to get healthy? Like, will he be healthy this week, or is it a 2-quarterback system? Like, what's going on right now at quarterback for the Deeks?
You might be able to flip a coin and figure out which one goes out based on whose heads and whose tails. I mean, Robbie's dealt with a knee injury. He missed a few series in the game against Georgia Tech that if you go back and play some hypotheticals out, if he's in there for those series, they might move the ball better. They might bleed some more clock off. They might score more than, I think they had 3 points in the second half of that game. And now he's dealing with the thumb injury that I believe he also suffered at Virginia Tech, or Virginia Tech was after Georgia Tech. So he's banged up. It's just kind of the magic wand of, the ACC availability reports don't quite give us the same clarity as NFL ones. So you just wave the wand and say, I kind of on Thursday night expect him to be listed as questionable. Maybe a probable. He was probable going into last week's game, but I mean, Wake only went to him when they did against SMU because Deshaun Purdy was pretty bad to start the game in the first 2 series, and then he got his bell rung, and he was in and out of the injury tent there in the first half. Deshaun should be fine health wise. It's the consistency that. Even though Robbie is not the world's most accurate quarterback, even though he makes some bad decisions from time to time, there's still more trust with Robbie than there is Deshaun. And you don't have to look any further than the turnovers responsible for against SMU. Deshaun, I think, had 3 of the 5. He had 1 of the 2 fumbles inside the 5-yard line at the end of the game when Wake was down 2. So
I don't even think he got hit on that, Connor. It almost looked like he just fumbled the ball himself, just like
I think he fell into the back of an offensive lineman. Not exactly the best way to set up your blocks for you. He'll make some throws that you're like, oh, right. That's why Florida wanted him to be DJ Lagway's insurance policy this year. Like he has an electric arm. He also has the ability to turn some layups into air balls for the Tobacco Road analogy of this appearance. Nice.
Scratch it off the checklist. In terms of playmakers, coming to the season, I feel like everybody knew about Damon Claiborne, the running back. The running game hasn't really been where they want it to be. He's been banged up too, but it sounded like Dickert was saying that they're close, it feels like, on some of these runs. But is the offensive MVP, is the bigger playmaker Claiborne, or is it Chris Barnes right now out wide?
I've seen Damon do a lot of things that I have been just floored by.
In a good way?
In a great way. I mean, the kid last year against Louisiana, he dislocated his kneecap and came back into the game and had a 64-yard touchdown run on his knee. I would give the edge to Chris Barnes, if for no other reason because he's such a surprise. We get full access for about 3 weeks to fall camp. And through those 3 weeks, I would have told you Carlos Hernandez was this team's best slot receiver. Like he was the one that you would rely on to be open in this third down situational type stuff. And they got into the season and Carlos Hernandez has kind of struggled with confidence and drops. I'm curious to see if he's back there on punt return. He has a issue with judging how deep the ball is traveling on punt return, which I don't think anybody really wants out of their punt returner.
Was it Barnes? Was it Barnes who came in and fielded the last punt of the game?
Yes. Yeah. So Barnes has been a weapon on kick return. I think Fans had been asking for a couple weeks before, why isn't Chris Barnes out there fielding punts too, because of how electric he is on kick return. I would kind of assume he's going to be back there. He's a redshirt freshman. Jake told us that they wanted to play him last year as a freshman at Washington State, but he got banged up. He actually told us about a month ago that he got banged up because in a practice, he did something like he broke his thumb and sprained an ankle on back-to-back plays. And he didn't realize the thumb was hurt. And so he went back out there and then messed up his ankle or his knee or something like that. He's from Houston. He went to, I think it's North Shore is the famous high school in Houston. That's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Vince Young, I think, from North Shore.
The way Dickert explained it, he was not even a starter in his senior year. He was just kind of like a guy that they discovered. He was a track star. I think he had a really good 100-meter dash. And they brought him to Washington State, and he is a hell of a football player. And he's the guy that Wake will try to get on jet sweeps, try to get him into space any way possible. He might have 3 or 4 touches that go 3 or 4 yards because he gets bottled up. And, he is a smaller guy, but they'll keep feeding him the ball because he's always one play away from getting a 30 or 40-yarder that completely changes the game.
Yeah, so for those who might not know, Barnes right now has 28 catches for 476 and 3 touchdowns for Wake. So very, very highly productive wide receiver, even though he's not like a Deuce Robinson 6'6" guy. Obviously out there making plays. Going to the defense, that's Jake Dickert's. That's how he's made his bones up to this point in his career, which is weird because he was like a quarterback, I think, growing up. It's funny how that happens. A lot of these guys, they'll be quarterbacks and they started coaching defense. But who else knows better how to dissect the defense and their weaknesses than a quarterback? But man, they've got like 10 guys on their 2 deep that are oars, that are projected starters. It looks like, Conor, you guys' depth chart is a little bit more cryptic than ours, but I think I counted 6 guys with 10 or more pressures from their front, their defensive front. 3 of those being guys on the interior. I'm going to totally butcher his name, but Noor Gatkuth. He's got 25. Close. Yeah. All right. Hudjavandi, we figure out ways to pronounce other people's names, but he's got 25 pressures on 119 pass rush snaps. Yeah. I think Dickert said that like last week against SMU, that was maybe the most selfless defensive performance he's ever been a part of. Like every guy did their job, set the edge, set their teammate up for success. It was fun to watch if you like defensive football. Just how, I don't know, either talented, prepared, confident, maybe the right word. Do you think this defensive front is for the Deeks right now?
Yeah, I would even throw the word versatile in there. Noor had an interception, and it wasn't like a batted ball 10 feet up in the air and a defensive lineman tracks it. He was about 15 yards downfield and had an interception against Malik Murphy when they won at Oregon State. He's just out there in coverage because sometimes they drop ends into coverage, and he's tracking a guy across the field. It's also the interchangeability of it. They feel good about the top 8, the top 4 defensive ends and the top 4 D tackles. They're going to rotate as often as possible. And it's really like, this is part of gamesmanship in college football now. If the offense subs, Wake has absolutely no problem subbing out their defensive tackles. Even if those guys just changed out the play before, they'll roll them in there to make sure that everybody else can get a breather, to get that snapshot of what the offense is lining up in. And they don't lose anything when they go from having Jaden Loving and Zach Lovichin in the game to Mateen Ibiraga. I've only learned how to pronounce that one in the last couple of weeks. He's been on the roster for 2 years. And Dallas Afalava, who's the one who actually blocked the PAT. It's funny, Wake has 2 1-point wins this year, and both of them the opponent has missed a PAT. So keep that in mind, I guess, for Saturday. But they're just they feel really comfortable and confident in it. Actually, I would talk to Wake's previous defensive line coach, Dave Cohen, all the time about this. I think college football defensive lines are one of 2 things. They either have the one guy that you're trying to get into a matchup because you know that he's your guy who has to win on third downs, Or you have what Wake has, and you have a defensive line that you can't pinpoint one person who's the guy that you have to block. You have a balanced line. It might not be a line that has anybody get more than like 6 or 7 sacks in the season, but that doesn't matter, because if they're all getting sacks, if they all wind up with 2 to 4, then you've got a successful team if you can get that team sacks number up.
Man, it's crazy just looking at your guys' PFF numbers. I mean, you guys got 4 guys on defense that have played over 250 snaps that are grading above 80. That's really good. Nick Anderson is third at 82.6. Had all sorts of preseason accolades coming into the season. Plays safety, obviously, for Wake Forest. How important is he to the overall success of that defense? How much of a, I don't call it teacher's pet, that feels like a pejorative, but I feel like that's a guy that Dickert probably really appreciates what he's being able to bring to the table.
Yeah, so I wrote a column about Nick last week, and I've called him the heartbeat of this, not only the defense, I've called him the heartbeat of the team. I mean, I still think Damon Claiborne, if everything is level and everybody is healthy, I think Damon is probably the most important player based on what they've built the offense around. But Nick Anderson is right there. He's kind of lived a full college football life and then some. When you think about, he was on NBC News in 2020, that COVID season. He was a walk-on freshman that had 3 interceptions and got carried off the field with teammates chanting for him to be on scholarship. He gets put on scholarship. Like, he missed a season with a fracture in his foot that he just kept re-injuring every time he was close to coming back from it. They put him at nickel, which was kind of never made sense to me because he's not that good in coverage. I think Nick would tell you that. I mean, he like one-on-one covering a slot or a good receiving tight end, that's not his forte. But sometimes he'll surprise you and have a PBU, like the Virginia Tech game ended with him having a 4th down PBU that effectively ended the game. He does have, I think he's up to about 8 career interceptions. So you can't just throw the ball his way every time. He has gotten the most out of his God-given talent that I think I've seen anybody in college football. I just, sometimes I want to look at him and I have the Rudy speech going in my head, like you're 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. He's not 100 and nothing now. He is, I don't think he's 6 foot, but he plays a lot bigger than his size indicates. He runs the alley as well as any safety in college football, I would say. And he kind of, you can't help but admire him because he lays it on the line and he plays as hard as possible. It's maximum effort. Sometimes he gets beat. I mean, he at the core of it, he is still a guy who had 3 scholarship offers coming out of high school, and none of them were to a P5. But here he is in his 6th year at Wake Forest, and he is one of the better safeties in the ACC.
Last question for you, man. You obviously read. You're the publisher of Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated, covering Duke, everybody. Florida State not going through a great moment right now on the heels of a 4-game losing streak. We'll see what happens with the future of their head coach right now. But, kind of been looking at a guy like Jake Dickert. When you start thinking about head coaching candidates that could be out there, it's like, there's only one Lane Kiffin, right? There's all these job openings. There's only one Lane Kiffin. He cannot be cloned and then be all of our head coaches. So people are gonna have to get, a little bit, resourceful and start looking at some guys that they might not be at a glamour, prestigious program right now. Now the fear is that they'll end up being a guy like, if you got to go to the group of 5 level, you're going to get another Scott Frost, Tom Herman, Willie Taggart, Mike Norvell. I know he's only been at Wake Forest for 1 year, man, but I really like Jake Dickert, man. Sorry, I'm not trying to poach him away from you and the Wake Forest fans, but like, what have been your it's obviously easy to like the guy because year 1 he comes in there and they've already got more wins than they did the last 2 seasons with 4 and 8 seasons. But like, to your point, man, just the mixture of guys he has on this roster, a decent amount of guys followed him all the way from Pullman, Washington to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He's found younger talent to kind of, massage into some of these holes. Robbie Ashford, man, let Robbie Ashford's like a punchline anytime he's on TV. Oh, he's still playing college football. There's a tweet out there every single time. But, man, they're 5-2. They seem to play their absolute balls off for this guy. I guess just long-winded, how much do you believe in Jake Dickert? How much do you think the administration believes in Jake Dickert? Do you think that's a guy that, not to take a shot at Wake Forest, but maybe there's a bigger stage out there for him that he could even prove his worth and medal at?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And gosh, you're speaking to me when you talk about how teams are going to have to get creative because not everybody can get the same coach who is Lane. One thing on Twitter,
would love to. Hey, Lane, come on down, buddy. Come on down. But I don't think we've got guaranteed $80 million over 5 years to give you. But
yeah, one thing I saw was somebody tweeted like, how's Lane Kiffin going to coach all 4 of these schools next year?
Right. Good point. Yeah, it's a good one.
But no, I mean, it's really funny for me to think now too. Texas A&M for about 3 hours 2 years ago was hiring Mark Stoops, and everybody in Kentucky seems to not be willing to wait to get rid of that guy. And Texas A&M fans were having a cow when they were allegedly going to hire him, and all of a sudden they had to pivot, and Ross Bjork needed a yes because he had gotten too many no's on the path, so he sent his plane to Durham and poached Mike Elko. I think at some point in the next month or two, I think the tires will be kicked on Jake. I think that's kind of inevitable. I do think he believes in what he's building at Wake. I don't know how he feels or where he would stand on pulling the parachute after one season. I look at it as it's not like he has to be indebted to Wake Forest for quote unquote rescuing him, but it's not like Washington State was in a great position. And if not for Wake Forest, he would have been there this year. They hired so late in the process. I don't even know if there was a job open when Wake Forest hired him that he also would have been a candidate for. I think if you're Jake Dickert and you're looking at what you've done this year, what you could build in the future at Wake Forest, you also have to keep in mind his quarterbacks before this season were John Mateer and Cam Ward. So
that's evaluation. That's evaluation, Colin.
If you can get somebody, I'm not saying you're going to get Cam Ward or John Mateer types to come to Wake Forest and play quarterback, but if you can get somebody close to that and put them on this team with what you've done already here, you're talking about a team that can get into the upper echelon of the ACC. And I think we're seeing it play out right now. I mean, the top of the ACC standings are Georgia Tech and Virginia. It's a league where, yes, you have to spend to be good, but it's not the only thing that it takes to be good. And what Brent Key has proven, that if you knock on the door long enough and you establish your culture and it's strong enough, then yeah, you can become, I mean, I know it's their first year of doing this, but it certainly feels like as long as Brent Key is at Georgia Tech, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the ACC. And I think that's kind of the blueprint that Wake would look at, that Wake would see and say, well, that's the type of support, that's the type of resources we need to give Jake Dickert, and we can be there too. I always say this. I mean, I learned the lesson. I knew it, but it was a reiteration, I guess. You're never prepared for when somebody can come along and double your salary. I mean, Mike Elko was making $4-ish million at Duke. He's making $7.5, and I'm sure he's in line for quite a pay bump in the next couple months. So you can be prepared for when somebody wants to come along and give your coach a raise. Sometimes you just can't win that fight, but I think with Wake, they were able to win the fight a time or two with Dave Clawson, and you kind of have to just, if you're Wake's administration, you kind of hope that you can win the fight again.
We'll see how the fight goes down in Doak Campbell Stadium. It's homecoming for us, Connor. I think Jake Dickert's been a little bit offended that they seem to be everybody's homecoming game. So we'll see if that gives him a little bit added edge.
That's a welcome to Wake Forest moment.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, it won't be like that down here, Jake. Nobody will schedule you for homecoming for the Florida State head coach. Conor O'Neill, 1 N in the Conor, 2 L's in the O'Neill. Publisher for Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated. Got you covered on Tobacco Road football. Conor, thanks so much for taking time out, joining us on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks. No problem.
We are back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, warchantbogo, your promo code. Thanks again to Conor O'Neill for hopping on the show to talk about the Demon Deacons. Back to the first segment, Corey. Again, we've talked about this probably ad nauseum, right? Like they find themselves in this position of having to go and get all these guys in the portal because they weren't able to recruit well enough in the high school level. Looking at all their grades on PFF, I see some of these names. I mean, Jason Jenkins has graded out at 41st out of 45 players that have a participation rep, according to PFF, right? So the only guys that have graded below him are Ricky Knight III, Jamori Flagg, and Kevin Wynn. So
nobody really,
right? Yeah.
Those guys have probably played 40 snaps between them.
Yeah. So
he's dead last.
Again, like you've put yourself in this spot if you're Mike Norvell to where you don't have depth if things don't go wrong. So, but maybe that's what it ultimately was. Like this had the confluence of things that happened on August 30th for them to beat Alabama has almost turned completely the other way to put them in this position to where the way they looked against Alabama, there's no way they end up not being in the thick of the playoff hunt in November unless X, Y, Z, A, and B go wrong. And it's like Tommy getting hurt, I guess more than, deja vu, more than we led on with DJ, right? Like we saw DJ wearing a sleeve on his knee during practice. We're like, it's not a big deal. No one said anything. He's still in a regular green jersey. Nothing to see here. And then turns out, he was wobbled, and that really hurt everything. And when Tommy's running off the field against Kent State, I'm like, he's not that bad. I mean, he was able to leave on his own power, and he like hopped off in such a fast manner that I'm like, he's fine. It's just like it's a sudden burst of pain. He'll be fine. But man, your quarterback's hurt, and the whole part of his game is being, healthy and being able to run around. You don't have the depth on the defensive line, but man, if this Jason Jenkins guy, for example, if he can work out, we should be fine. He ends up coming here and then getting hurt within the first month of him being on campus. It's when you find not having depth, like this is like the exhibit A of what happens, I guess, when you don't have enough depth and you need everything to work out absolutely perfect for you to keep this thing going, because it's just been 5 years of mismanagement. And
it's not even like, I guess it is depth. I mean, they have bodies, but so many of these guys are just bodies. And again, I hate being dismissive like that, because they are human beings and they're college football players, and they're good enough to play college football at Florida State, which is something the vast, vast majority of this audience and myself could never have dreamed of doing. So they're not like just average athletes, but they are average Division I football players, a lot of them. And Florida State should have better than that. You look at the defensive line, and it's just that's not good enough. You look at the linebackers, that is clearly not good enough. Now, it's better than it was last year, but anything would have been better than it was last year. It's still not close to good enough. And that all comes back to the head coach. Now, they did make some adjustments, and I do think that this staff as it's currently constructed has been and would be a much better staff when it comes to evaluating, recruiting, and developing. I mean, I think the proof is out there with how many true freshmen have played and played pretty well, and how good they might be in 2 or 3 years. But unfortunately, because you keep losing games and it is a results-oriented business, they probably won't be able to. We won't be able to see what this staff can do with a second recruiting class and a third recruiting class. They won't be here. Probably. So you have to reset. And it all goes back to the problem, like you just alluded to, is when you don't recruit well at the high school level and you keep portaling over guys that have been in your program for 2 or 3 years, I do think it creates some animosity with the guys that are here. But the guys that are here aren't probably good enough to play, but then you're portaling over them with guys that probably aren't good enough to play at Florida State either. So it's a double whammy. You're not getting a Jared Verse, but you're alienating the people that have been in your program for 2 or 3 years, on top of not getting a Jared Verse. You're getting a Diggs or a Jenkins. No offense to those guys, but they're not Jared Verse. And then, the guys that you recruited out of high school that you said you had a plan for, all of a sudden they can't get on the field at all. And are they that much worse than what you're throwing out there? I don't know. So anyway, it's a bad mix of not a lot of talent. And again, let me reiterate this: they have enough talent to beat Alabama. They did. That was not a fluke win. It might feel like it now. It wasn't. We all watched that game. I thought they were faster. I thought they played with more confidence on both sides of the ball. I thought they were more physical. Let's not forget a 4th and 1 at their own 34 in the fourth quarter where they just gave it to Roy Dell and he pushed through there for a first down. That's a straight-up tone-setting play and drive, and they end up going scoring. So let's not act like that was just a complete fluke. But since that moment, they've regressed like Mike Norvell's teams always do. And Alabama has turned into this team that will, unless it falls off a mountain, will be in the playoffs. That you certainly wouldn't have thought that was the case leaving August 30th. And that is they do have more talent. Alabama does. It seems obvious. Their quarterback play is better. Their offense is better. I think they're coached better. They got better players on defense. They got real NFL dudes. You don't. You've got to get back to that. Let me put it another way. Alabama could have 3 losses this season, right? They could have lost to South Carolina, could have lost to Georgia. Really, that Vanderbilt game was in doubt in the fourth quarter.
It was. South Carolina,
they have not.
did you already say?
I did. Yeah, they should have lost that game. They have not steamrolled these teams. But you get a little bit bigger margin for error when you've got a Ty Simpson throwing the ball to Bernard and Ryan Williams and Horton, and you've got that kid at left tackle. You've got the guys on defense that are really good.
Throw the ball to the left tackle. Hand the ball off to the left tackle.
They do everything to that guy.
Caden Proctor.
Florida State doesn't have that roster. Why not? Why not? Is it just Mike Norvell doesn't want a roster like that, or he can't bring a roster like that? Because he won 19 straight games, but he did it on the backs of guys that he did not identify in high school, largely. So you've got to get back to that. You've got to get back again, and I want to stress this because I've talked about it for 3 years now, 5 years really. I'm all about the portal. Go get good players out of the portal. But when you go get players out of the portal, get you a Jared Verse and a Deuce Robinson, and a Braden Fisk and an Earl Little. Don't go get.
All right, you don't have to say names. We got it. Yeah.
I'm not. Insert your own name there. Yeah. Use the portal wisely and effectively. The other. If you're just going to have decent football players, identify those guys, build them up, bring them up, so they know your system. They know you. They are part of the culture. They're part of the DNA. Like they help build culture. Those types of guys, that's just missing here. To a large degree. But it doesn't mean it's I just want to keep coming back to this because I know I'm being negative. I'm being negative about what this head coach has done and the roster he's had. I do think they're good enough to beat Wake. I think they're good enough to win all the rest of these games. They won't, but they are good enough. Florida State is a good job. Florida State is a great job.
They're good enough to win each single of those games in a vacuum, but I don't think they're good enough to win 5 games in a row.
Because you know what kind of teams win 5 games in a row?
Really
Great
good teams. Yes.
Yeah. That's not what this team is. This team is an up and down team because sometimes, it's like a Major League Baseball hitter that's in a 0 for 17 slump, and then he goes 4 for 4 with a couple bombs. That does happen a lot. But that guy's even 230 hitters have great days. Even pitchers with 5 ERAs throw 8 shutout innings. Sometimes you just have it, and you find it. And you can, when everything clicks, play really well. But normally, water finds its level. And this team is about a 7-5 type team. And it's even underperform. It looks like it's going to underperform that. Now, 7-5 before the year, you'd have been okay with it. But like I always said, it depends on how it looks. Right now, it looks horrible because in no figment of my imagination would I have thought they would lose. The 3 of their losses would be to Virginia, Pitt, and Stanford. I mean, you just wouldn't have thought that. Maybe one of them, not all 3 of them. Yeah. It's just crazy. So Anyway, water finds its level. This team has the chance to be good. But I will say this. When it comes to water finding its level, going back to what I was trying to say just a second ago.
Sorry.
Real quick.
FSU's a
No,
good job.
I'm not. That wasn't a gripe. I just wanted to finish that point. Florida State is a great job. It is a great job. This is not – do not feel less than. Understand that Florida State is a great, great job. You have had 3 different coaches in the last quarter century win 13 games here. 3 different ones. An old Bobby Bowden, a cranky Jimbo Fisher, and apparently a dude that can't coach in Mike Norvell. They somehow all miracled 13 wins. And 2 of them won national – well, Bobby didn't in 2000. But he got close, really close. If Marvin's there, if Snoop's there, they win that game in 2000. But so understand that. Like, this is a great job. There are not – 10 better jobs in the country than this. You just got to make the right hire. You got to make the right hire and get somebody that understands what big boy, big-time football looks like from the jump. Don't work yourself into it and try to figure it out. From the jump, know what it looks like.
Is the door ajar for Lane Kiffin? He was on the Pat McAfee show a few days ago, Corey, and he said, I've never made a decision based off money, nor will I. I've seen too many examples in life where money does not buy happiness, so I'm never going to make a decision off of money, nor do I care about it. Jimmy Sexton gets really mad when I say that. He's like, we've got to get this. We've got to get this. And I'm like, Jimmy, I don't care. And he goes, I do. So if it's not all about money, is this landing spot maybe a little bit more palatable than Florida or LSU? Because listen, man, did you see what he said on Tuesday about Brent Venables? Like, no. I want this guy to be my head coach, and if he goes to Florida, it's going to suck so hard. So Venables pull the kind of Dabo-esque 2013, public relations dressing up of his team losing, and said that he thought that his team was better, but they just got out executed. And then Lane's like, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting take. That's a bit of a hot take. He's like, we beat them by 8 points in their house in weather that most defensive coordinators would like, but I guess they're a better team than us. The guy starts asking a follow-up question. He's like, maybe they were better than us last year too when we beat them. I don't know. And then the guy's like, resumes his question. He's like, I don't know. Maybe Brent Venables was better than us when he was in Oklahoma and we beat them 55-19 in the national title game. I don't know. He's like, I don't know. Maybe he was better when he was at Clemson and we beat him 45-40 in the national title game. I just don't know. I'm not sure. Like, him at Florida, ooh, please don't go to Florida, Lane. Just stay in Oxford or come home to Tallahassee, buddy.
Well, I mean, I think LSU's on the table too there. And I would say this, man. I just think it's too much. It's too much money.
Yeah.
He seems like as close to a guarantee as you can get. You know why? Because he's done it in the SEC. And he's turned an SEC program around in this current landscape that he seems like he would be the most surefire hire of anyone in this cycle.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Corey,
but might fall on its face.
Sorry to interrupt you. So then it has to kind of be like James Franklin or bust, because either you're going to have to take a risk, you're going to have to take a highly calculated risk on a quote up and comer or somebody that's done at a lower level, or you have to pay really, really high dollars and get in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes again if they don't win out. Otherwise, James Franklin's the only middle grade 89 octane option. Rather than go,
but are we under the opinion that only Lane Kiffin or James Franklin can win at Florida State? Mike Norvell just had a 19-game winning streak here.
I know, but
Jimbo Fisher hadn't coached at all, and he put together one of the 5 best college football teams of all time at Florida State. I don't know that I don't share that opinion that it has to be one of those two guys. I think there are dozens upon dozens of coaches in this country that, given these resources, which includes that 150,000 square foot new football only facility in a really passionate fan base in this area to recruit in, that could win and win relatively big here. And I say relatively because what does that even mean anymore?
Well, there's a high risk quotient that they won't be able to do it. And Grandpa, I'm tired of this, man.
Oh, I get it, but I
don't want to suck anymore, man. I don't.
Yeah, I got it.
I
hear you.
You know.
I think Franklin and Kiffin are your 2 best bets as far as being good. The floor is raised significantly where you're never going to suck. You might be pretty good, or you might be awesome, but you're never going to suck, I think, with those two guys. Other than that, there is risk in all these hires. Texas A&M didn't think they were making a risk with hiring Jimbo.
Right.
What are you talking about, national championship head coach? Yeah, it didn't work out there at the end, but he's got all these resources. He gets to recruit in the state of Texas. Great recruiter, great offensive mind. There's no way this doesn't work. Oh, no. We've got to pay him $75 million not to coach. Like, there are no guarantees.
And the Mike Elko they get because they're going to hire Mark Stoops, and their fan base is like,
that.
The hell you will hire Mark Stoops.
But it's not like they were doing cartwheels for Mike Elko either. Now, I think some of them were excited about that. But in hindsight, there was a much bigger deal when they hired Jimbo Fisher than it was when they hired the Duke head coach.
Gosh, yeah.
And then look at what the Duke head coach has done. So there's just no blueprint. There's no surefire. I am of the opinion now that if you don't get James Franklin, this is me personally just talking, if you don't get James Franklin, who I think is a possibility, and again, I love James Franklin because of, his track record. He won at Vanderbilt, and he won at Penn State. And those aren't easy places to win, but he did. And an unbelievable number of NFL players at Penn State. But if you don't get them, I'm all for going and getting, the DC at Georgia, the OC at Oregon. I'm all for that. I am all for that. And you don't have to pay them $11 million. And because there is no guarantee, even if you pay James Franklin a ton of money, that he's going to be an incredible success. And there's also no guarantee that this DC at Georgia that's never done it won't be awesome. He won't be awesome. He's learned from Kirby. He's been around Kirby for a decade. Like, that's not a bad person to bring in. But that also doesn't mean he's Kirby. And he might come in and have no idea how to be the guy and how to run a major program. Because he's just watched Kirby, and he ain't Kirby. It's just all part of the calculus when you're trying to make a hire like this. The good news is there's no way you're going to saddle yourself with a crazy contract again. So if it doesn't work out, and whatever that means by your definition, say the new coach goes 7-5, 6-6, which, oh man, wouldn't those be glorious days, Aslan? To be covering a 6-win team, you can reset again, and you won't owe him $50 million because you're not dumb enough to ever make that stupid arrangement ever, ever, ever again. So yeah, we'll see. It's Auburn's going to be in the market soon, I'm sure. Maybe Wisconsin, maybe Michigan State. Like, there's going to be probably 15 D1 openings this year, and we'll see where the dominoes fall. But Florida State can get almost anyone at once, relatively speaking. Like, I don't know how many coaches out there would say yes to Florida but no to Florida State.
Oh, for sure, right. Well said.
Yes. Why would you? What's the difference? It's easier to win at Florida State, clearly. They've had, out of the last 4 coaches, 3 of them have had at least a 13-win season. At Florida, all 4 of the last 4 coaches have been fired unceremoniously, and 1 was humping a shark on a boat.
That's not true. It's not true.
Is it not? I always forget if it's true or not.
We just got the last lawsuit settled, Corin. You're bringing it back up.
That's my fault. My fault, everyone.
All right, let's go talk to the head coach of Florida State, who might be here longer than we're giving him credit for. We'll speak to Mike Norvell, maybe a player or two. Check out warchant.com. That should be probably posted around 11:45 or so because they do it after practice. We'll have the blow-by-blow. I'll be over at warchant.com for our tribal council subscribers. Subscribe to warchant.com. Again, only $1, and then get that year subscription to The Athletic. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock. He is Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant BOGO. Buy one, get one free.